This is a Wild Games Production podcast.
Hey folks, Evil DM here. Evil DM Podcast. I'm Vince, your host. Talking a little bit about today. Some people had asked, what other type of things am I into as far as gaming? And since COVID, or the lockdown, or whatever you want to call it, gaming has been a little bit scarce and has to be online mostly for the most part because we can't really be around each other due to the pandemic and catching it. But I mean, most people have been playing in person if they trust and don't feel like wearing a mask or anything like that. But some people have to stay restricted and indoors. And this obviously is not a political thing or anything like that. It's just summarizing the issue at hand here. But I have been playing on Discord with my group, and you know we're getting along okay. But sometimes I just want to sit down and play a game that no one else really wants to play, and that's where solo gaming comes into play. Now, there are many videos on YouTube of people who are big into solo RPGs, or solo play RPGs as they call them, and I've looked into them, and they're having a blast, so I decided to grab some books, and this was years ago that I got these books, but I've never really fully explored them, probably not until the pandemic started happening. So, first things first, I talked about this a while back, and I think it was in, I don't remember where it was. Maybe it was in a Roll for Initiative podcast episode I talked about it, or maybe a solo podcast here. I'm not sure, but it was For Against Darkness. Is a great solo play game. It's a small little booklet-sized game that basically has some minor rules in it for you to make 4 characters, control them on one page, and randomly roll dice to make your own little dungeon as you're moving along. And some of them have adventures with choices in it, kind of like choose your own adventure type thing. But the biggest part that's a seller for that is you don't need a GM. And you could sit there with a scratch piece of paper and graph paper and go to town. And basically you roll and you copy what you see there, and you can get these really random dungeons. And bonus part about these random dungeons that you do create is that you could save them and use them for future adventures with your group. Because you're filling out an entire dungeon here. Maybe it may not apply to the exact game you have, but it does have features that are similar to Dungeons & Dragons and maybe some other type of games. You can make any game work with whatever game you're playing. But it has some descriptions, it'll fill out some monsters for you, and you can go to town playing the game and drawing and have a complete dungeon drawn up by the time your session's over and continue along. Now, it doesn't give you that many levels in For Against Darkness because it's not really meant to be played that long term, though some people have added some more rules for it. I only have the core book and 2 to 3 other ones that help expand on it with little adventures. Excellent game. If you have a chance to pick it up, get it in print. It's a lot of fun. Support the author for it. Just look up For Against Darkness and you can purchase that. Another thing that you can look into if you want to play any game, and I'm talking any game out there as a solo person, is Mythic Role-Playing or Mythic Gaming. It is a red book, plain red book. It says, create dynamic role-playing adventures without preparation. Used for standalone games or a supplement from other systems. So basically, imagine a role-playing game without a game master, just the player and the action. In this book, you don't even have to use the entire book. You can only use the one page in this book for decision making. And that's the fate chart, pretty much, that's on page 26 of it. It has decisions on here for you to randomly roll, so you can play any game you want. You can make all the characters you want. You can take an adventure and run through it and randomly roll what you want to do, what decision you would make. And a lot of people do this with a lot of games. If you look up Mythic Role-Playing on solo RPGing on YouTube, you will see tons of videos on it. And I have been trying it recently, and I have to say it does kill some time, but it's not as fun as For Against Darkness, and it's not as fun as playing a game with your group. Obviously, playing a game with other people is the ultimate playing solo, like Four Against Darkness, or a Choose Your Own Adventure book, or fantasy fighting books, for example, would be your next step. And then I think this, Mythic, adding these rules to say whatever game you want, would probably be my, last choice. But it does kill some time, and it is interesting to at least look into it and try it. It does help you, as a gamer, really get into the mind of how a player versus a GM would work, and how a GM versus player would work, vice versa, whatever. And it makes you make decisions, and it can also help you build an adventure while you're doing it, because you can, say you want to try out a new module in a new game that you found. Basically, you can take this and use this chart here in the book. It gives you a percentage rolling. Would you be likely to do it? Not likely to do it based on the situation. I'm not going to read the entire book here. I'm just using it as an example. I'm trying to get you to actually go look at it. It's not that expensive to get the book, so feel free to get out there and buy it yourself, or go buy the PDF, or whatever you want to do. It's something that you and any GM or any player should at least look into once or twice in their gaming career, is solo play. It will get you to think outside the box and think in both shoes at the same time, because not only are you the player, you're the game master. So, I don't know. Tell me what you think about solo play. Do you like solo play? Have you ever tried solo play? Have you read the fantasy fighting choose your own adventure type books, and that's just basically your jam and you can't go any further than that? I don't know. I've done it all, and I overall do prefer the group dynamic versus just solo play. But I want to talk a little about something a little bit different today. So solo play is what we're talking here. So don't forget to head over and like this, share this, help download. And if you want to send a voicemail in here, just go to anchor.fm/theevildm. You can click on the button, and I think you can leave a voicemail. You need the app for that, I believe, but you may not. I'm not sure exactly. Or you could send an email to me if you head over to theevildm.com and contact me there. Ask the DM at theevildm.com for an email, and it should get directly to me, and I could read it on the air, provided it is constructive and good feedback, or just something to help further another show. If you have any topic suggestions, I'd be more than willing to talk about them. Who knows what will happen with this thing, and it may go off the rails, and I may lose my mind and talk about things you may not like. But with that said, keep it original, keep it old school. Good night.